Jnanakosha, Puranas.
सर्गश्च प्रतिसर्गश्च वंशो मन्वन्तराणि च वंशानुचरितं चैव पुराणं पञ्चलक्षणम्.
Shiva Mahapurana. The Shiva Purana is one of the 18 Puranas, generally of Sanskrit text, and a part of the Shaivism literature. It primarily centers around the Hindu god Shiva and goddess Parvati, but references and reverence of all gods. The Shiva Purana asserts that it once consisted 1 lakh verses set out in 12 Samhitas. However, the Purana adds that it was abridged by sage Vyasa before being taught to Romaharshana. The surviving manuscripts exist in many different versions and content, with one major version with 7 books, another with 6 books, while the third version traced to the medieval Bengal region of South Asia, with no books but 2 large sections called Purvakhanda and Uttarakhanda. The 2 versions that include books title some of the books same and others differently. The Shiva Purana, like other Puranas in Hindu literature, was likely a living text which was routinely edited, recast and revised over a long period of time. The oldest manuscript of surviving text was likely composed, estimates, around the 10th to 11th century CE. Some chapters of currently surviving Shiva Purana manuscripts were likely composed after the 14th century. The Shiva Purana contains chapters with Shiva-centered cosmology, mythology, relationship between gods, ethics, yoga, tirtha, the pilgrimage sites, bhakti, rivers and geography and other topics. The text is an important source of historic information on different types and theology behind Shaivism in early 2nd millennium. The oldest surviving chapters of the Shiva Purana have significant Advaita Vedanta philosophy, which is mixed in with theistic elements of bhakti. In the 19th and 20th century, the Vayu Purana was sometimes titled as Shiva Purana and sometimes proposed as a part of the complete Shiva Purana. With the discovery of more manuscripts, modern scholarship considers the 2 texts as different, with Vayu Purana as the more older text composed sometime before 2nd century CE. Some scholars list it as a Mahapurana, while some state it as a Upapurana. The date and authors of Shiva Purana are unknown. No authentic date is available. Scholars such as before that the oldest chapters in the surviving manuscripts were likely composed around the 10th to 11th century CE. Certain books and chapters in currently surviving Shiva Purana manuscripts were likely composed later, some after the 14th century. The Shiva Purana, like other Puranas, were routinely edited, recasted and revised over the centuries. There are many manuscripts. As we say, Shiva is Atma. A pathologist diagnoses correctly and cures illness through medicines. Similarly, Shiva is called the physician of the world by those who know the nature of the principles. Shiva is the great Atman because he is the Atman of all. He is forever endowed with the great qualities. There is no greater Atman other than this. This is from Shiva Purana of Kailasha Samhita. Several decisions of this text exist, like there is 6 samhitas are there, like Jnana Samhita, Vidyeshwar Samhita, Kailasha Samhita, Sanat Kumara Samhita, Vayavya Samhita and Dharma Samhita. There is a second manuscript which says Vidyeshwar Samhita and then Rudra Samhita and Saurudra Samhita, Kotirudra Samhita, Uma Samhita, Kailasha Samhita and Vayavya Samhita. The creation of the cosmic ocean and elements in the Shiva Purana also says, according to passage found, there are many different samhitas. The number of verses in these samhitas are: Vidyeshwar Samhita has 10,000 verses, Rudra Samhita 8,000, Vainayaka Samhita 8,000, Uma Samhita 8,000, Matri Samhita 8,000, Rudraksha Samhita 13,000, Kailasa Samhita 6,000, Shatarudra Samhita 3,000, Saharokutrika Rudra Samhita 11,000, Kotri Rudrata Samhita 9,000, Vayavya Samhita 4,000 and Dharma Samhita 12,000. Several other samhitas are also ascribed to Shiva Purana. These are the Ishana Samhita and Aishwara Samhita, the Surya Samhita, the Tirtha Kshetra Samhita and Manavi Samhita. The Shiva Purana states that Om Pranava expresses Shiva. It includes within it Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra and Shiva. There is Purusha in everything. Nothing is smaller nor bigger than Shiva Atman. The Vidyeshwara Samhita, also called Vignesha Samhita or Vidyasara Samhita, appears in both editions, is free of mythology found in some other Samhitas and is dedicated to describing the greatness and the bhakti of Shiva, particularly through the icon of Linga. The Shaiva Agamas and Tantric texts, but frequently quoting from the Vedas and asserting that the text is the essence of the Vedic teaching and the Vedanta. The Jnana Samhita shares with Rudra Samhita of other manuscript, presents cosmology and mythology, and it discusses about goddesses and gods, dedicates parts of chapters praising Vishnu and Brahma, and it also talks about Krishna. It must begin with Karma Yajna, therefore step by step with Tapo Yajna and then self-study, then regular meditation, ultimately the Jnana Yajna and Yoga to achieve Sayujya. The text emphasizes Bhakti and Yoga rather than bookish learning of the Vedas. The Shiva Purana dedicates some chapters to Shaiva Advaita philosophy, Linga Purana and other Shaiva related Puranas, advocating it as a system for salvation. The text also presents the Brahmana as Sachitananda, with masculine and feminine Shiva's Shakti as a unity and perceptions of popularity, discrimination as a form of love-driven devotionalism, bhakti. First of all, sage Shaunaka expressed his desire to Suta about knowing the means which could help a man in this era of Kali to attain Lord Shiva by cleansing all the impurities of his mind and rectifying his inherent demonic tendency. Suta then described about Shiva Mahapurana, the supreme of all the Puranas, which was narrated by Lord Shiva himself and which was later on retold by sage Vyasa with the permission of Maharishi Sanat Kumara. For the benediction of common man, Suta said, by understanding the mysteries of Shiva Mahapurana and singing its praises, a man attains greater virtues than that which could be attained by being charitable or by the performance of all the yajnas. Contemplating on the subject matter of the Shiva Mahapurana give auspicious fruit just like a kalpataru. Proper method of listening to Shiva Purana. Sage Shaunaka requested Suta to tell about the proper method of listening to Shiva Purana so that the mankind gets complete benefit. Suta replied, first of all, an auspicious movement should be determined by an astrologer. After that, friends and relatives should be invited, especially those who have the tendency of being away from such occasions. The sages and the virtuous people should be invited too. The katha must be held in sacred places like Shiva temple, any place of pilgrimage, or in one's home after doing a bhumi pujan of the land where one intends to hold the katha of Shiva Purana. The canopy should be well decorated. After making a resolution and doing worship of Ganapati, the destroyer of all hurdles and obstacles in Katha, should be commenced. The person who is telling the Katha should be facing north and the listener should sit facing east. The person who is telling the Katha should be a scholar and should be capable of clearing all the doubts from the listener's mind. There should be no kind of distraction during the Katha period. A devotee who listens to the Katha, leaving behind all of his worldly worries, get complete benefits. A devotee should also make donations and offerings according to his capacity and capability, otherwise he would become a wretched man. The mantra Om Namo Shivaya should be chanted throughout the period of Katha. An uninitiated person does not have the right to listen to the Katha of Shiva Mahapurana. So a man desirous of listening to Shiva Mahapurana should first get initiated. A devotee who has taken the vow of listening to the Katha of Shiva Mahapurana should follow a celibate life. He should sleep on the floor and should have only fruits in the diet. He can have his normal dinner only after the completion of the Katha. The diet should be fresh and pure. He should also try to avoid sinful tendencies like lust, anger, greed, attachment, and condemning others. Making donations of even meager things give undiminishing virtues. After the methodical completion of the Katha, a devotee should perform Udyapan, which is similar to the Chaturdasi Udyapan. The devotee should also charitably make donations to all the Brahmins who have helped in the performance of Katha. On the next day, the path of Shiva Gita should be performed. If the devotee listens to the Katha, he is a householder, then he should perform Havan with the ghee prepared from cow's milk for the pacification of unhindered completion of the Katha. The Havan should be performed either with the help of Rudra Samhita mantras or Gayatri mantra or with the slokas of Purana.